Welcome to week 7 of the Heartbreak Hotel Book Club. It's crazy. I think about this every week now, but it's crazy how fast the time is going and how much writing we've all done in this space and time that we've created for ourselves. Tonight, I want to talk about feeling and about how if you were to check in with yourself right now, how you're feeling about the situation when you started Heartbreak Hotel. Check in with your intention. Why did you start it? What was the situation? Why did you come into this? What were you looking to heal from? And on a scale of 1 to 10 at the beginning, how did you feel? And then now, today, checking in with how you feel today. And if there's been any progress and if there's been an improvement, if there's been not even that, it's just like the changes. Has your perspective shifted? Have you seen a different viewpoint? Do you feel more heard? Do you feel more seen? Is there a level of calmness that comes with and acceptance that comes with this situation now? Being able to see that even just the smallest of differences can be indicative of healing. That we're not here to turn on a light switch or turn off a light switch for our emotions and for our grief and how we're feeling about a certain someone or a certain situation that have been a part of, but truly honoring ourselves and having compassion for what we've gone through and how much we've gone through and how much we've really healed from. So just really taking that time to really note your progress and how you've been doing. And even if you don't feel like you have progressed as much as you would have maybe have liked to, because we can get really into like the game of comparison mentally, that do we feel, even if we haven't, if we don't see external physical markers of change, is there somewhere in our hearts that maybe feels just that little bit better? Do we feel there? Take a deep breath in. That was a breath out. Deep breath in. Try it again. And a breath out. Just letting the day go. Anything else that you've come to beforehand, know that you're honoring this present time and space for yourself here. You're allowing yourself to feel. You're creating this safe space. You are in a protected avenue. You are experiencing life for what it truly is and the gift that it is and given, even when it does not feel good and we are not happy about the outcome or the present situation. But still just experience in life that we get to write about and express ourselves, and knowing that when we share that writing and share that expression, that there are others that are going to resonate with it because they will also understand what they're feeling and what's going on and what can be better and what can be worse and where there can be movement and where you can go from here. I have to take this out. So it's like being able to pull it back in that energy. What I think we get really upset with, what grief is how much it actually controls us. Really, it's like, let's cut the shit. Really, when it comes down to us, I think a lot of us get upset. It's a feeling, a someone, a situation, someone other than ourselves is controlling our feelings. We're letting them make us feel this way and we're allowing this to happen. And even if we don't want it to happen, it's still happening. And we don't like that, that's even worse. Because there's that part of us that's somewhere that has that humanity for like those feelings about whether they may be good or bad or whatever it would be, but it's someone else influencing who we are and what we're doing, the decisions we make and how we want to feel. But when we start to work on that healing of that grief and really stop letting the spontaneousness of grief control who we are and what our day is looking like, that we can really find this inner strength within ourselves that we maybe didn't even know that we had. That's the beautiful thing about experience at heart forging is you are pulling that piece of you back. You are taking control of the situation by bringing in that feeling and allowing yourself to feel it because you want to. Like you on Wednesday nights during Heartbreak Hotel Book Club, you are in charge of your feelings. You're triggering yourself You are setting up this space for healing. You're in control of that. You get to do that. Are you noticing that as you go into the course and into that habitual state of being in like creation, that your feelings are getting easier and easier to tap into because you're the one that's controlling the trigger. It's not somebody else anymore. Somebody else might be the reason why, but it's about that, but it's not the ones that are doing that. You're doing this. You are empowering yourself for your own emotions and your own words and your own writing. And you're in control of that. And feel into that space as you bring these emotions more and more into context. You are taking, I feel it's like, I don't feel like this is the right phrase, but maybe we can write about it later. It's taking your power back. It's taking the power that somebody else has over you. Being like, no, I'm going to do that to myself. Thank you very much. I know how I feel about the situation. I've been sorting this out. I feel this way. I feel this and this way. This is my anchor. This is where we're going. This is what feels like garbage. This is what I surrender to. This is what I accept of it. But no, like, this is my art. This is my art. Have been empowering yourself a week at a time, whether you realize it or not, to be the one that is in control of this. And I think that's where we feel healed, is when it doesn't trigger us, and it doesn't, not that it's not triggering, the trigger doesn't change us, because one, it already has, but like, we're healing that wound and we may still have the scar of it, this beautiful jagged reminder of loss or of that uncontrollability. But how we have that to remind us, it's like, we have had that, but we are still alive. And we are the ones who get to decide who sees our scars or not. Or if our scars are just for us. Or if they have purpose and meaning. Or if it's something that isn't to be seen again. You get to decide that now. You're in this credible space of being. And I want you to be able to feel into that tonight and see where it is. Because I think what comes with healing too is there's also, we have this loss of identity when we don't have that so much within ourselves anymore. I think this is where so much of the resistance of writing and healing can come into, especially it physically manifests in the writing. That you want to write, but you can't. You want to show up for the class, but like something always gets in the way, because there's a part of us that doesn't want to do the healing, because who are we without that emotion? And who are we without that sadness? And who are we without that grief? And who are we without that person? If we accept that person is gone, I'm just going to generalize that this is all about somebody else. That when that person is gone and we don't have that anymore, then what do we do? What do we think about? What do we dream about? What do we cry about? And what do we have the rumination on? If that's gone, then what else is there? And I don't think a lot of people talk about how difficult it is to really lean into the joy and the gratitude of grief and the healing side of that it comes with so much with guilt, that a part of us doesn't want to experience parts of life without this person, that we either feel bad that we're having a good time and enjoying ourselves, or we get mad because that person isn't there, whether they chose to be or not, or that it's just like, this would be so much better with them, or that you want to share that experience with them. And this isn't about speaking about the gratitude as a way to be able to like raise your vibrations, like finding the silver lining in things, but just truly being grateful for like having the experience and wanting to share that with that human that's missing in your life. Also assuming it's human, it could be. But it's like, really, who are you without that? And I think that that's like an actual question. Like, that's rhetorical. Who are you without that grief? Is there a part of you that's left that to be so much of who you are? Do you know who I think about this all the time with is like musicians. Taylor Swift, I think, especially in particular, because she's portrayed in the media so much about every album's about her relationships, not as her growth as a human and as an evolution of her womanhood, but it's like the one perspective of it that it's like every time she has a breakup, she has an album. I'm like, is there a part of her that won't allow herself to be happy because then she won't have writing material that people can identify with or won't have a topic of discussion, like thinking about this in your own context, that it's like, if I have this, am I going to be able to speak with like certain people about things? Am I going to be able to bond at a certain level speaking about if I don't have this to talk about anymore? Because it's my own experience now and just not something to share with other people. Is there a part of you that's keeping yourself from being happy and experiencing joy because you don't know who you are without the grief? And it's big, heavy questions, and it's not meant to be in a way that's condescending or shameful with it, but it's like really being able to ask yourself, it's like, what am I holding on to and why? And I think there's a part that your grief is, like, it's a part of you now. Just like those scars, like they're not going anywhere. Ding ding. They're no like they're who you are. But are they the driving force of who you are? Do you present yourself scar first? Is that the first thing you show people? Is that how you identify? And I don't think that there's anything like there's nothing wrong with that. If that's like who you are now, then that's who you are. And I think that it comes with like a level of internal acceptance too. That like, no, this is just too much a part of me that this isn't like this is who I this is integrated in a soul level. This is who I am now with this grief. But I think it's also we have to ask ourselves the questions because a lot of times we're not surrounded by people that can ask that of us or ask that from us and being like, yo, like how much of you is holding on to this and why? And really be and it's not for anybody else, I think, to answer except for you. Knowing that there's no wrong answer for it. I think too that we don't want to let go of that grief because it makes it feel like we're letting go of that person and we're never going to experience them again unless it is through grief and it is through heartache and it is through that sadness of not having them in our lives anymore, not being able to share those experiences with them, having that conversation and the interaction and just these nuances of who they are as humans. That that's we feel it's like the only way that we can be with them. But what if we can be with them in joy? What if they were actually to want us more to be joyful? And that we can share it with them in a way that is like just like we talked about last week, with that, like instead of half of it being sadness and half of it being joyful, just like that little sprinkle of sadness. Like what's like your dreams coming true. You got Taylor Swift tickets and you get to go all inclusive VIP first class all the way, hotel included, want it all. Oh, and here's some spending money, and here's all the merch. Like you get this like once in a lifetime experience and opportunity. It brings you so much joy and happiness, and like this is like anything and everything you could desire times 100, times a million billion, infinity. You have that, and there's always gonna be this little sprinkle of grief on there because you want to share it with them, even if they wouldn't be able to go, but you wanna be able for them to be happy for you, just like you miss being happy for them. You miss being sad with them, you miss being angry with them, you miss plotting revenge with them, you miss having these conversations. And I think that's the hardest part about grief because now that relationship's only one way. But it's not letting yourself be consumed by this grief and only feeling that, but to also get into that place where you're feeling both. And then getting to that place where you're feeling more joy than anything, but that sprinkle of grief as like this beautiful topping and reminder that we're all human and we're all on a timeline and we have this incredible adventure. And thinking about it too, that when you go, how do you want the people around you to feel? What would you want them to write about you? It's like being sad that you're gone, but being able to have that encouraging way for you to live life even more now that you're not in it. I hope my death is inspirational. I hope it changes people's lives. I hope it gives them so much permission, I'm getting emotional, to be and do exactly what they want in life. Because one of my friends' death gave that exact same permission slip to me. It Death makes everything and loss, not just death, loss in general immediately puts into perspective what's important and where your priorities are. And often the person that's leaving is one of those priorities, which makes it so fucking sad. And then it's also really thinking about how, like, you are also a priority, which is also why it's sad. What is your death going to inspire? Where are you going? Like, do you want your death to give people more permission to live joyfully? What is your intention for when you go? Something I don't think a lot of us ever really think about. But if that's what you want to leave behind, then what would you think that loss, how can you best capitalize on the loss that you've experienced? What would they want for you? What would they want for you? I think even when they're like assholes and they've left, there's still a part of you at some time and them that you love them, they loved you, or else they wouldn't have been in your paths. Good or bad, or like there's some sort of loss there. It's not, I don't want to reiterate this as finding a silver lining because I don't think you have to have that in order to justify learning for a situation. Like nobody deserves loss and nobody deserves trauma and grief and nobody manifests it. Like it's not like shit just happens. And you don't have to find a reason for it to be good in order for you to feel better about yourself. It's a more specific situation that it's like if the loss of a person in your life, like if that was you, what would you want to leave behind? How would you want that person to act? And I think that's one of the greatest acts of love, really. I'll probably write about this tonight. That when I was leaving my husband, I remember him telling me that he loved me so much. And I'm like, if you love, and I kept getting this image of a bird cage. And it's just like this beautiful bird trapped in a cage. And it was a wild bird. And now you've caged and tamed it. And you know that your bird is miserable, unhappy, does not want to be there, is not the right environment. It doesn't matter what you do for this bird. They're just melancholy. They're depressed. They're dying from the inside out. And they're physically there, but they're not there. And I think like everybody knows what we're talking about because we've all either experienced that with somebody else or ourselves. That if you truly loved that thing, you would let it go. You would open the cage and you would make sure this is like, you guys, this is like 20% of Disney movies is being able to like let something that you love that much go. This is like this birdcage metaphor. What part of you is the one with the birdcage? And then what part of you is the one that's caged by that person or even by yourself? Breathing into that feeling, seeing it where it lands and sits. Pulling that energy and the emotions back into your heart space. We're just going to need to give you a little bit of Reiki if I have your consent. Breathing into the feeling. You're hearing the big questions because you're ready for an answer. Even if it doesn't feel good, even if it actually feels great. You're waiting for that question, someone to ask one of these questions your whole life or since this happened. Know that everything is done with the intention of healing and love, with truth and awareness. Bringing that feeling back into your heart, knowing that you're safe enough now for the answer. And where can you lean into that little bit of resistance that might be coming up? Why am I getting guarded? Why Am I feeling defensive? Why do I want to shut this off and never listen to this again? Why? And being able to write that out, to describe that feeling. These walls that we build around our heart's a defense mechanism. That when someone comes banging on the door, do we know that they are true of heart or not? And is keeping those walls up and the door shut always going to be the answer? It may be for a small time as we're healing and have that capacity for. I think it also, grief comes with a level of, there's a difference, I think, between isolation and privacy, that there's a part of us that wants to keep our grief private because it's the only part of them that we still have. So we keep that small flame of it with us. That's private. That's just for us to know and how, just for us to feel. But as there's a part of you that's keeping everything and all the words, all the potential healing and capacity away. Taking a deep breath in and feeling into it again. What is your heart trying to tell you? Where are you at a tug of war? Where is holding on no longer serving you? Where is this still living within you and will always live within you? What is your intention with death? Are you truly living your life to the fullest? Even in small doses? And what changes can be made? I think another really big question to ask yourself that comes with guilt is, if you ever do feel guilt, to ask yourself this question, is where am I looking for permission? What am I looking for permission for? Who do I need it from? And where can I give it to myself? Where are you looking for permission to be happy? And where are you holding it against others that you are? Breathing in to everything that's come up today. I encourage you to write, either answering the questions for what comes up, whether it just be feelings, descriptions of your feelings, the words that come with it. But I would love to encourage you to write with rhyme. Find a beat and a cadence. Putting music with a beat on in the background to give you that metronome, that feeling, to see if it helps you bring up the right word. And you'll know right away if it does or not. Don't struggle for the word, struggle for the rhyme, and see what happens. Thank you for week 7. Taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out. You've done amazing today and incredible work. And we'll see you again next week.